for me, like the event anxiety thing is real, you know, like, and I was saying the other day, I actually did a video on my story, and it was probably the most liked video I'd ever posted on a story, which was basically telling other small business owners that in my dealing with other businesses, what I tend to see a lot is people don't give a shit. Like they don't have that anxiety.
Yeah.
They don't carry that stress. And so the caption on that story was kind of like, if you're stressed out about your business, it's because you give a fuck.
Exactly.
It's because you care.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of how I view it. So I don't know. I battle with this because I'm like, my assumption is everybody who's
Should
a good
give a shit,
vendor,
right.
everybody should give a shit.
Yeah.
And everybody's going through this as well.
But you'd be surprised.
Yeah, no, 100%. There are a lot of people that just like coast through life with their businesses and don't, you know, like no stress. If something goes wrong, whatever, you know, shit happens. It's like, I don't know. I can barely live with myself if I forget something small, like the fucking paper clips to clip the cocktail garnish to the side of the glass. Like no one's even going to notice. It's not going to fuck up the event at all. But it's still just something that bothers me because it's like I let myself down. I wasn't prepared enough. I forgot the paper clips.
Well,
you know?
and then you have the opposite. You have people that, you know, give a shit and they have the anxiety the day of the event, but they don't know how to hide it in front of the client.
Right.
And that's, to me, that's huge.
I agree. Yeah.
Because you're being hired to relieve stress.
Yeah, 100%.
So by you creating drama, you think you're looking like the hero, but you're not. You look like a freaking idiot.
Oh, I know.
You know,
I agree.
like,
I mean, when I first started doing this in the business, one of the things I used to really push myself to do was be the most pleasurable vendor to work with, right? Because I was new in the game, so I didn't know any planners, right? Now a lot of planners here in South Florida know me. They know how Richie works, or they know what the expectation or delivery is from Craft Cartel. But at that time, nobody knew me. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, no matter how stressed everybody is, just like you said, show up here, be calm, be cool. You know, I used to work in restaurants and bars for many years, and you always hear good managers talk about, you ever heard the duck on the water theory, right?
Yeah.
So there's chaos going on under the water. The fucking thing keeps moving like this. But on the surface, it's just beautiful.
Well, same.
Smooth
I
coasting.
studied broadcast journalism.
Okay.
So being in that realm, you know, I worked for Channel 7 in the newsroom for many years. So there is chaos going on all around you, you know, and the director's screaming and this and that or whatever. And I was just doing production. But you got to keep your cool.
Right.
Because if you let that get to you, like, you're going to fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But there is a level of anxiety that happens throughout the planning process. And then obviously, especially as a planner, like everything relies on you, dude.
Yeah.
Like all the pressure that day, like the next, that's why we have what's called, and I'm sure you've suffered from it, the wedding hangover. And it's not a drinking hangover.
Right.
It's like the next day you woke up and you felt like you were at the gym working out for 10 hours.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's that stress and that, you know, that anxiety and that everything is like, has to happen now. So, which is why you probably don't eat and don't realize you're not eating throughout the day, because the adrenaline is just keeping keeping you moving. It's keeping you moving. And at the same time, like when it comes to me, thank God I was born with ABF, active bitch face, because that's all you see. You don't know that I'm freaking out in the background unless you're a vendor and I'm screaming at you because, and I never do that either, because you did something wrong.
Right.
I have this look and my vendors already know, shit, she's looking at us that way. Let me fix this, you know, type of situation. But it's tough, and it's definitely tough when you're dealing with other, and I've been doing this for 23 years now, but when you deal with people that own their companies that they don't give a shit. They come and they deliver furniture and the Chiavari chair is, you know, chipped off, or, you know, the linen is dirty, and you're like, what the fuck, you know, like, and then you call them, tell them to bring you something else, and it's like you're asking for this huge favor. I'm like, dude, like, I'm saving your business here. Yeah. Do you want me to take a picture of it and like post it all over social media and be like, hey, I rented this linen from these people, and they showed it up dirty. Yeah,
and you know, I've noticed this a lot, at least in the last year, maybe even 2 years, where in my dealing with other businesses, and not even in the event industry, it could be completely outside the event industry. It's just, you know, people, I think, small business owners who really give a shit, that are really on top of their stuff. We're not perfect. We all make mistakes, right? But we need to give ourselves more credit for those of us who do feel that way, because there are an abundance of people who own businesses who really don't give a shit. They barely answer their phone. They don't respond to emails. I mean, I have chased businesses to pay them for their fucking services or their product. And it's like, I'm chasing you for 2 weeks for your for your Zelle or something to pay you. Like, this is just crazy, you know? I've offered hundreds of dollars to bartenders to work events and had people be like, no, I don't want to work for $600 because I don't feel like driving 2.5 hours. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like it's just mind blowing to me. So, you know, I've paid for a lot of expectations and then been delivered something far short of those expectations, and I've had that happen a lot over the years. So something for me, and I'm always like drilling,
and I think it's gotten worse after COVID. After COVID, it's
so bad. It's so bad. So you know, I'm always drilling this into my team because, you know, I think with cocktail catering especially, like what helped me take off as a business years ago was I realized when I got into the game, I thought like a typical cocktail bartender. So everything was about like what's inside this glass, right? How it tastes, the ingredients, the perfect balance of everything in there. But then you realize like you can't sell the taste of something, right? It's not possible. Like your sales opportunities are in the forms of emails and phone conversations and text messages and photos that you're posting or videos you're posting on social media or your website. Now, to get people to understand how good this cocktail tastes, impossible. But how beautiful it looks becomes very easy. So what I'm always telling my team is like, it's got to look how I'm selling it to the client. Because if not, we're falling short of that. And that's kind of putting us in the realm of everybody else, the majority. And we want to be, you know, not the majority, right? We want to be that little niche that actually does their shit right. You know, and in my experience, it's been 11 years now of doing this. You know, you definitely see those that care, that make that happen, that go that extra mile. I mean, I can't even begin to think about the amount of times I've been at an event and seen vendors showing up last minute and scrambling to get things, you know, delivered and set up. And it's like, holy shit.
Funny. It's funny that you bring that up because the other day I was talking to, you know, a very good florist friend of mine. And we're discussing on how there are, I mean, I have a following, but I don't have a huge, what I don't see it as a huge following. But there are planners out there that have hundreds of thousands of followers. And you look at their Instagram and you're like, oh my God, you know, like, look at everything that they're creating. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Like, let me hire this person. Look how many followings they have. They have to be great at what they're doing because now that's how social media, you know, sells you, right? And he was telling me, he's like, Marylen, and these planners, you know, the day of the wedding, they're a hot mess. You know, the clients don't know where they're at. The bride doesn't know where to be. There's no set timeline. There's no, and I'm like, well, how the fuck are they getting the business? Just by looking at it? Like, just by you're looking at somebody's Instagram and that's what you think? And listen, being a planner, it's not just about creating beautiful events. You're in charge of everything. So is my client okay? Do I have a bridal valet with her that's helping her get in her dress? How's the groom doing? Is he getting dressed? Are my assistants on top of him? Where are we with the photography? Are we running on time? When is sunset? When is first look? You know, there's so many other things that take place rather than just what the aesthetic is, right? Aesthetic is huge, but, you know, there's other things to it. So I'm telling him this and I'm like, dude, like, what the fuck? How do they have 100,000 followers and keep gaining on this business and are busy every weekend? You know, and he said to me, there's a saying in Spanish, and he said, cree fama y acuéstate a dormir. And basically, you're creating the fame and go to sleep because the fame is going to continue to build your business. So apparently, you don't have to do shit because the fame is just making you like, you know,
I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Business.
You know, society seems to be buying everything with their eyes, right? Everything we do is with our eyes. And it is bad. We don't, you know, I was having a conversation with someone the other day just about like the event industry in general, right? And you know, I've tried a lot of different things since I've been in business in 11 years. I've run ad agencies. I've doubled down hard on social media content. But, you know, the same thing grows the business every fucking year. You know what that is? It's just going out there and executing each event exactly to the way that we sold it to each client. And I say it to the guys every time. There's 50, 100, 150, 200 people in this room. That's 200 potential sales, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody here, even if they're not getting married, have a kid who's having a birthday, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, anniversary, company party, whatever, they know somebody who is. And so you're always getting that opportunity, even if it's not the customers you're serving. There's the planner.
Yeah.
If she likes you, if she likes the way you work, if you delivered for her clients, she's fucking calling you again.
Absolutely.
100% she's calling you again. I mean, that's what the event industry is. You can't pay your way to play in this game. And you have to do it and get the respect and, you know, from other people in the industry, because at the end of the day, you know, if you hire me to do your client's 300-person wedding and I'm going to charge them $20,000 fucking dollars to come do the bar with no alcohol included, well, they have a high expectation. Absolutely. And so do you. But if I deliver on that, guess what? Right? Like you're happy, she's happy, I'm happy, we all win, right? And that's what I think we, you know, for planners that I work with that I know do it the best in the industry, it's because they know the difference between a vendor who's legit, knows what they're doing, and I can rely on this person, and this person who's bullshit. So, you know, for new people, I get new people all the time breaking into this industry, want, you know, advice from me, and my advice is always the same. There's no elevator to the top of the mountain. You gotta climb the fucking thing. You know,
you gotta climb it.
I did this for 3 years and still worked a full-time job. 3 fucking years. I was running a bar 5 days a week, swapping my days off, so working 7 days a week to do events. Was paying myself $180 an event and then just dumping the rest of the money back into the business.
Of course.
Buying glassware, racks, tools, company truck, affording a bigger warehouse, all this shit. And so you just grow over time. Your ability to take on more gives you more opportunities, and you just keep executing those opportunities, and boom, it just starts to compound like interest.
Right.
You know?
And we get vendors out there that are like, hey, listen, like, Marylen, what can I do to get your business? I'm offering this commission. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there. Yeah. Great for people that work on commission. Nothing against that. I don't.
Yeah. And I'm against it too.
Right. You want to give me commission? Make me look good in front of my clients.
Yeah.
That's all I ask. Make me look good. Make me look like a superstar. And that's all I care about, you know? And then obviously it works out for you too, because I will continue to send you, I'm a loyal person. I will continue to send you my business because you're making me look good.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, at the end of the day. And word of mouth is huge.
100%.
You never know what guests are at your wedding, who's looking at the way you work, you know, who's looking at your work, who's seeing you like going from here to there, and your staff, and how everybody respects you, and how everybody talks to you, and how the event is seamless. Because that's what I care about. I care about the guest experience more than anything.
Right.
What is the guest going to come out of here and say, oh my God, everything was so organized. I had so much fun. The music was great. The cocktails were flowing. You know, I didn't have to wait in line. That's what my goal is. And now that we're talking about that, how huge word of mouth is, and what people are seeing you, or the way you look, or the way you work. 2016, I had a client someone that called and was like, hey, I got your number. I want to plan my wedding. Didn't ask prices or anything. Can I set up a meeting with you? And I said, yeah, sure. I'm not thinking anything. Back then, I didn't do like my due diligence, where I was like, okay, what's the name of the groom? What are you looking at? No. She's like, oh, we're looking at the summer of next year. But I want to meet with you. And I was like, okay, great. You know. So she walks into my office and walks in this tall ass guy, and I'm like, oh, cool, okay. And they walk in, and I was like, man, this guy's really tall. No questions asked. I'm asking them. You know, I'm giving them my spiel. I'm like, okay, what are you looking for? You know, and she's like, I'm pregnant right now, but I want to get married. It has to be in the summer, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, oh my God, the summer in Miami, that's brutal. And she's like, I have to, because that's the only time he has off. Okay. And I'm still not thinking anything on it. I'm like, sure, et cetera. I'm like,
you gotta be an athlete.
And I was like, let me ask you, who referred you? And she's like, I have a friend of mine that has gone to several weddings that you've planned. And she says that every wedding has come out perfect. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And I'm like, do I know her? And she said, no, you don't know her. You know, she's just gone to several of the weddings that you planned. You know, that it's been her friends, et cetera. And they've come out great. So that's why I came to you. And I did end up planning that wedding. And that was my first MBA wedding.
Nice.
Jeff Green.
Nice.
So, yeah. And after that, all of them, came through. But that's how important you never know who a guest is, or who's sitting and looking at you and being like, wow, let me tell so-and-so that's getting married that this is the person for her.
Yeah, it really is. It's organic traffic is, I mean, at least for me, it's half my business, I would say, I even recently had an issue where I had a company that rebuilt our website. And unfortunately for myself, they had screwed up a few things, and for probably about several months during the summer, like when we launched it, we weren't, activating following and page indexing. So like Google wasn't indexing anything on the website, so it wasn't even showing up.
Okay.
And so just so you understand the impacts of that, last summer between mid-June and the first week of September, I had received 48 random inquiries during that time frame.
Wow.
And that was almost the same number the summer before, right? And that's a summer, as you know. Like the
Slow.
summer's fucking dead,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
getting
yeah.
like 50
And
inquiries
this
in the
summer
middle of
was
the
the
summer
worst,
over
yeah.
like 3 months is really good. Doesn't mean you're going to book all those. Of course not. You're going to book a percentage, but that's the game that we play, right? This summer, I had zero organic inquiries. And I felt it, August, September, which is usually a month where we start to take off. We did a few good size parties in September, but it wasn't, even just going back and looking at the calendar from the previous. October, same thing. Like I have a crazy fucking week coming up this week. I got to do 6 events in the next 4 days, starting today. But, it's just, I feel it. Like I can feel it because what I learned when I started running ads, and I'm very curious to know what you've done in your 20-something years to grow your business, what you think actually works, because I'm a believer that if you're in the event industry, so for any vendors out there that might listen to or watch this, in my 11 years, I've definitely tried some things that have worked, and I've tried a lot of shit that hasn't, right? And so I think it's, one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast was to talk about these things so that people would hopefully take this information and learn from an experience, right? Like if I fucked up doing this, I'm telling you this shit doesn't work, and this is why. Ads were one of those things that really for me don't work. Why? I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, like I'm not a low barrier to entry fucking ticket. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a $40 cell phone case.
Right.
I am a minimum of a couple $1,000, and it could go to tens of thousands. It just depends on your event details. And I'm sure for you, it's exactly the same. So like interrupting someone's fucking death scrolling with like a get quote. You're going to get a lot of bullshit inquiries. Total bullshit inquiries.
But that's with everything. I mean, even if you put yourself, and I hate to say this and not to throw names out there, but everybody knows I'm transparent as hell, and that's what you're going to get. But even when...
That's why we asked you to be here.
Even when you put yourself on The Knot, on Party Slate, you put yourself on all of these, wedding websites or what have you, and you're not getting the...
And no disrespect to Party Slate, Wedding Wire, or The Knot, but I've never booked a fucking single event from those platforms. Not one.
Not one.
Now,
not one.
Again, there maybe are some positions that may be able to market yourself. Like if you're a photographer, videographer, DJ, you may be able to do that. Now, I just want you to understand how the name of the game works on these fucking platforms. Anybody who's getting an inquiry from you, that's a person without a planner. That's a direct client, and they're shopping fucking prices.
They're totally shopping.
So it's just what your price is against somebody else's. If you're not somebody who's trying to fucking negotiate underneath the next person's price, then that's useless for you. And for me, I always say I don't give a shit what anybody else does in this industry related to what I do because I have no idea what their cost is to run the business. I know I give fair pricing, and I just know what it costs me to run my business. And that's how I formulate every price that I charge a client. So I can't ever go off of what somebody else does. I have no idea, Some people might be making no fucking money doing what I'm doing, and some people might be charging you crazy markups that like I would never. So I don't know. And I don't play that game, but I can tell you that with ads, at least for something like what I do, probably what you do as well. If I was a food caterer, same shit. I just don't think it works. Now, things I have seen work, I've never paid for Google ads, but I used to pay to do Yelp ads. Not a lot of money, but a decent little budget. And I actually would get inquiries and book events through there. And I have a theory as to why. When you Google search something, usually the bigger, more dominant websites will pop up first. So if you're searching cocktail catering or something like this, Yelp's gonna show up as one of the top sites, that you're going to be able to find a cocktail caterer or a food caterer in your area or whatever, driveway fucking repairman, whatever it is. And Yelp will pop up towards the top. So rather than like relying on your own individual business ranking, you're just kind of getting that ranking of Yelp, within that term search. And then when they click on it, you're going to show up because you paid to be there in visibility, right? And people have this thing where like they kind of trust Yelp because like, again, you can have people write reviews on there and stuff like this. So I have booked events by running Yelp ads, which is kind of crazy. But again, I just think it's because it's kind of similar to just Google searching, right? Like I always say, if someone gets on Google and searches cocktail caterer in my area, it's because they're actively searching. You know, they want that service. They didn't just pop up on the fucking feed as they were scrolling like an ad, but they searched out for it, you know? I had received, like I said, I probably did, I don't know, over about 100 calls this summer while I was on vacation in 8 weeks. Various brides and grooms that were contacting me for weddings, all in relation to these ads that I was putting out. And this is actually one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, because and when I say this, it's no disrespect to anybody who doesn't have fucking 6 figures or $1 million to do a wedding, because I don't either, you know? And
I don't.
And you know, I always even say, like, I think what we do as a service is fucking amazing. I don't even know if I was throwing a wedding, if I would hire my own service, because I just don't even know if I want to pay that.
And
but
I have
some
clients
people do,
that'll be
you know?
like, oh my God, like, this is not what I wanted to spend. This is very expensive. And I said, I understand.
100%.
I'm like, if I were to get married today, I can't afford me.
Yeah.
I can't afford myself.
100%.
So I completely understand. But there's a value, you know, and I tell them, listen, you're an accountant, but you're a CPA and you've been working for a firm for X amount of years. You're expected, you know your value.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to go to another company for less money.
100%.
Same here. I can't take you for less money when I'm charging a client what it is that I deserve, you know, to get
And I
paid.
even tell clients, like, I know you could get someone to bartend and serve drinks for less money than what I'm giving you. It's just not going to be to the level of what we're doing.
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine, otherwise, or they're just willing to lose money. You know, like, I'm spending more money to do this. I'm paying the staff more money because I want quality staff. I got to spend a lot extra money on ingredients because we're making everything from handcrafted fresh ingredients. It's all perishable. We got to throw a lot of it out when it's not consumed, etc. And then all the elements of what we provide: glassware, ice, specialty ice, garnishes, dry goods, mobile bars. Like, it fucking, the list goes on. It's like moving a 1-bedroom apartment every time you do a small 60-person event, right? So, you know, with a lot of these calls that I was getting this summer, you know, so, and again, I want to stress this, like, it's not an insult to anyone who I had any of those conversations with, but I just realized that maybe there's not enough good resource for information that's going to help people understand what the fuck it is you should expect when you're doing a wedding or any large-scale party for that matter. The cost, the planning, the fucking timeline, how long in advance. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but, like, I get people contacting me fucking 8 weeks, 6 weeks out from a wedding. And I'm like, but then I get other people who are contacting me like a year and a half in advance. It's a really bizarre fucking mix of like how people are doing this. And I just dealt with some insane, unrealistic financial expectations. Like, I had people, a lady wanted us to go to fucking Colorado and serve like 150 people. The budget's like $1,700. Like, I can't even put 2 guys on a plane, put them up in a fucking hotel for $1,700 for 2 days, let alone ingredients, paying them to do the event, etc. It's just, it's
and with
nuts.
the cost nowadays,
it's insane.
you know, I've turned down clients that it's crazy, and I think about it. I'm like, well, in 2018, I would have been like, you know what, this is a fair budget. Back then, 100, 120,000, 150,000. Okay, I get a client now that tells me 100,000, and I have 200 people, and I tell them I can't help
There's
you.
no way. Yeah, there's this.
I can't help you. Maybe a planner that is starting out, or someone that has like maybe 5 years experience can be able to help you and wants the business that badly.
Yeah.
But it ends up for us that have been in this business for so long, and because of the type of, you know, service that we provide, it ends up being a loss.
Yeah.
It's a loss
100%.
for us because you got to call vendors that you're not accustomed to working with. They're not luxury vendors. It's more work on you. You have to be more on top of things. And at the end of the day, you're like, if you start doing per hour, you're like, shit, I would have been better off working at freaking Home Depot.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
You know?
Sometimes, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. There can be a profit there to be made, but it's not worth the chaos that it's going to bring our lives.
Not.
I think a lot of misconception I deal with in the event industry and have for a long time, probably will continue to deal with it in my lifetime in events, is I think a lot of people think that events happen in one day. They happen on the day the event takes place. Like October, 12th, that's when these guys are going to put in the work for the money that we're paying them. And I try to make people understand it takes days.
Yeah.
Between ordering, receiving, prepping, batching, loading everything into trucks, then let's go. Let's execute the event, right? Then when that's done, you still got to take all that shit out of a truck, break it all down, throw things away, clean everything, sterilize bottles, wash glassware, all these things. And none of that happens by itself. Right? It's like you got to pay human beings to do that, because when you're me and you're doing 200 plus events a year, like you can't I can't, I got to just run a team. I'm just running a business at this point, right? I'm not even bartending events anymore. I'm going to the events to take video and photos and make sure the team showed up on time, set up correctly, making the cocktails right. And then I go. And that's just part of the growth. You know, it's definitely a struggle I've dealt with over the years. I have a lot of clients that come to me year after year after year. And it's tough. I don't know if you've dealt with this, but, you know, I get people who've used me for 5 years and think I can charge them the same price today I charged you 5 years ago. And I'm like, bro, 5 years ago, I didn't have an employee.
Same. I've had families that I've done the first daughter's wedding or the first son's wedding, and then the next one is getting married, and then the third one's getting married. By the time the third, they're like, oh my God, Marylen, but like, you know, we've given you 2-3 other weddings. And I'm like, I understand that, but please tell me that how much you pay for a number 5 at McDonald's right now.
It's true,
okay,
yeah.
it's not $3 or $4 or $5 anymore. 100%. You leave McDonald's spending $20 minimum.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, when I was a kid, if your parent was making $55K a year, you had a good life. If your parent was making 6 figures, like those were the rich kids in my fucking town. You know, if your dad made $100,000, you were driving cars, taking vacations, like wasn't even fathomable to us. Now, fuck, if you make $100,000 a year in the event industry and you're living here in fucking South Florida, like, fuck, man, you're like, you're just barely making it. So, you know, and that was something, you know, I had to get comfortable with, right? I think like when you're working for yourself, charging for your time, understanding your value, sticking to that value, you know?
Educating your client.
And educating your clients, which isn't easy.
It's not easy because they don't understand, and they're talking to you about things that they paid for in the past, and you're like, I understand, but, you know, things have changed, and especially, again, not to bring COVID up, but after COVID, the prices and everything have skyrocketed. My florists have to spend more money on gas, more money on exporting, more money on personnel because people don't want to work for peanuts anymore.
Well, they can't.
You know, that's the other thing, right? Can't. They just can't.
They'll be literally not being able to pay their bills. I pay bartenders, you know, look, I don't give a shit. I pay bartenders about $30 to $35 an hour, sometimes higher. It just depends on the days.
That's what I pay my staff.
And I don't know a lot of fucking businesses that like how much money is Chipotle paying fucking employer or McDonald's and how much money they got versus like me or you know, like astronomical amounts of money. But the fact of the matter is like, I just can't justify paying those people any less because if you just start doing the math at 40 hours a week, I just can't imagine you can live for fucking less than that in this city. I mean, it just becomes impossible. Like, I mean, a one person's paying $2,000 a month for his fucking rent at the very least, no matter where he lives, you know, and he's got no transportation. Our public transportation sucks. Now he's got to take Ubers everywhere. And so it just keeps piling on. And it's definitely the biggest struggle between us who, you know, have businesses in the event industry and then that connection to the clients because you know, like I said, I get it. I talked to a young guy this summer who had like a 240 person wedding in Orlando. And the guy's budget was $2,500. And I told him on the phone, and I was very nice about it. I didn't say this like an asshole. I just wanted to paint a picture to make him understand the realization, which was you couldn't serve McDonald's to 240 people for that same amount of money you just told me. So how the fuck am I going to come? Bring glassware, cocktail ingredients, non-alcoholic mixers,
drive
like
over
bartenders,
there,
drive to fucking Orlando. 240 people. You need about 6 or 7 bartenders to serve that crowd. You need bar backs and shit. Like you need multiple bars. Like, you know, it's just, it's completely unrealistic. You know?
There's a lot of unrealistic people out there. I get people that, listen, you've seen my Instagram, you know, and there's gorgeous, luxurious wedding pictures on there. And they're like, oh, you know, I want you to plan my wedding. I'm like, oh, great. My budget for flowers is $10,000. And I want it to look like this. And they show me a wedding that my client spent like $150,000 to $200,000 on decor alone. I was like, okay, let's bring this down to earth. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. We can make it look beautiful, but it's going to be really tough, you know?
So let me ask you this, because you would know this number way better than me. First off, let me ask you this. A few statistics on weddings, right? What's your average size wedding these days, you would say?
150 to 200.
150 to 200.
That's average.
And what do you think, like, let's say I'm not going mega fucking high end, but I'm not doing a budget wedding. So I'm trying to find that average here in South Florida. What am I looking at, either total price or a price per person breakdown on 150 to 200 people? Like, what is roughly that cost going to run me?
150.
150. So about roughly $1,000 a person when it all comes down to it, right?
Give or take.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes total sense to me.
I mean, you got to look at it this way, especially if you're at a hotel, right? Every hotel has a minimum food and beverage that you have to meet. Some hotels, minimum food and beverage starts at $45,000. Some hotels, some more upscale hotels start at 65 to 70,000. You know, that's your minimum on food and beverage. That's not counting tax or service.
Right.
So by the time you're done with that food and beverage minimum, if you stay at the minimum, you're at like 90 grand.
Okay.
80, 90 grand. Easy.
Yep.
So then what are you leaving me for? Photography, florist, DJ. Oh, you want a band too? Okay, here's a band. You know, officiant, linens, rentals. I want special cocktails, menus, invitations.
Yeah,
Hora loca, whatever. Everything starts adding up. So you're like, before you know it, you blink and the 150 is gone.
It's gone, yeah.
The 150 is completely gone. And then if you throw in that 150 telling me, oh, dad says that in that 150, my dress is also included. And by the way, my dress was 20 grand. Oh, well, here we go. You know, so it gets tough. And, you know, and I get it, you know, and you should definitely, I'm not knocking anybody. You should definitely spend money on your dress because that's your look. That's what you're going to go with. I know some people are like, no, you're only going to wear it once. Listen, it's going to be in every picture. You need to feel gorgeous, beautiful. I get that part. But you have to look at the overall budget and what you want. And I've had great experiences with clients who are like, hey, okay, great. This is what it is. I can't afford that. Okay, I'm okay with that. What can I afford? You know, and that's awesome because you have that flexibility.
What's the next best alternative?
Right, exactly. And that's the client that you know, and not to sound cliche, that is getting married because she wants to get married or he wants to get married.
Not
or
to
they want to
impress.
get married.
Right.
They're doing it because they're in love and they want a huge party.
Yep.
You know, so they don't care if they don't have a fixture hanging over the ceiling. They don't care if, you know, everybody has a little flower on their name, you know, on their place setting. It's okay. They're okay with that. You know, they're looking at big picture. What's going to make this a huge party? Which is great. I love those type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
You know?
That's what it should be. I mean, that's the, you know, I look back, it's been 11 years now since I got married. And I got married in Mexico in my wife's town of San Luis Potosi, which was really fucking smart because if I did that wedding that size here in America, I would have spent a fortune. And it's funny because I've actually had these conversations with my wife. You know, like I might have spent, I don't know, if I just had to throw a number out there, and I was fucking really broke when I was like getting married too. So $25,000 was like a fucking fortune to me. But that was in Mexico. So I was saying to her, like, okay, it was like 300 people at the wedding. If that was done 11 years ago here in South Florida, I probably would have spent 3 times that, more than likely. Probably somewhere around like $75,000, you know? If I did it today, it'd be like you said, I think it would legitimately fall into that like $150,000, you know, range, right? So, you know, it's just something for me, like, you know, that's when I started the business was after I got married, you know, realizing what goes into a wedding, what it costs, because that's what I was working for a whole year and just sending my wife money to pay for. You know, that was kind of the light bulb moment. Like I started Craft Cartel because it was like people were coming, I was going to weddings, right? And I would go to high-end weddings, I would go to budget weddings, and you would see so many things change. Decor, flower arrangements, the dress, the venue that the reception was held in. Most certainly the food, right? There's like one thing that like always changed a lot if the budget was higher, you know? But the fucking bar was always the same. It was Jack and Coke, Amstel Light, vodka soda, like Heineken. And I'm not shitting on like Heineken and Amstel. I'm just fucking saying.
And
like,
one signature drink that they served you during cocktails.
And it wasn't really a signature drink. It's just it's a classic cocktail. It's like a fucking strawberry margarita. It's okay. So you made a fucking 3-ingredient margarita and you toss like some shit sugary strawberry puree. Right. It was like a fresh strawberry. Anyway, and that's really what it was. And I was in cocktail bars at this point. Like, the way I looked at the world of drinks and cocktails was like, craft cocktails are the fucking norm. Like, this is what people want. It's what they ask for. Yeah. This just makes sense. Why wouldn't... In my mind, I'm like, the only thing I want to do in this fucking space is party and dance.
Yeah.
So, like you said, like, if it's more geared towards a party, it just makes fucking sense. Like, that's what we can... That day after my wedding, I don't remember what I ate, if I even ate. I don't remember. There's so much shit. I don't remember the color of the flowers, probably because I didn't pick them. I know we did the reception at Hacienda, but I don't even know what like part of town it was located in. What I remembered the most was in Mexico, they do the Hora Loca, but they do it for like fucking hours, right? And when our wedding finished at 5:30 in the morning, almost 6, and we had shuttle buses that were taking everybody from the Hacienda back into town in San Luis Potosi, because the Haciendas were always on the outskirts of town. And I just remember us getting into those little buses and everybody wearing fucking crazy glasses and hats. And like my aunt's wearing like a fucking styrofoam octopus thing on her head. She's hammered. And my wife's dress looked like she fucking just rolled around in like mud and soot. And that's what I remember. I only remember that good time. I remember I sweat through fucking every inch of my suit because I was just never stopped dancing the whole night. I remember the giant trays of shots on the side of the fucking dance floor. Like, we didn't even have to leave the floor to get drinks. And that's what I remember. I just remember, like, dancing to different genres of fucking music, 80s, rock and roll, Mexican, whatever, through, you know, for hours and just partying with people that meant the most to me. And all those little other things were great for the photos,
Right.
sure, but they didn't really facilitate in the core memory of what you remember about that fucking day. And I think we all, you know, as vendors and professionals in this industry, we'll all have different opinions about, of course, what we think are the important things. I always lean in on music and liquor. Of course, I serve liquor. It's what I do for a living. And I just believe that music...
It's also the male perspective.
Of course.
That's all they care about.
Totally
I mean, they go to the tasting and let me talk to the DJ or the band.
Women might notice those other details a lot more. You're right. They probably do. I mean, I know, like, back when we were getting married, so many girls I would see, like, going to weddings and observing the wedding, like, making fucking mental notes about what they're going to do. Men definitely don't do that shit.
No.
Like, we're just not programmed to even see the fucking world that way, you know? So, yeah, I'm sure it differs from all of us. But, you know, if you had to narrow it down as a planner, you know, what do you think are the top 5 most important things? You know, if you're budgeting for this... you don't have unlimited money, but you want to get the best experience you can. Like, what are the 5 most important things they should hone in on? And what do you think are the 1 or 2 things that you should just be like, I'm constantly getting asked for and it just needs to fucking disappear. And we just need to stop doing this. It's dumb. It's a waste of money.
So I definitely think that liquor is very important. You know, the music, entertainment, huge. Some say the food. Okay, the food has to be somewhat good, but I'll be honest with you. I've done high-end weddings at luxury places like the St. Regis, the Faena, the Four Seasons. The food is spectacular, but everybody ends up really like honing in on that McDonald's that I bring in at midnight, and that's what they remember, which is crazy, right?
Comfort food, you know?
The comfort food, right, exactly. Definitely a good photographer. Because that's what's gonna those are your memories.
Makes sense.
That's what's gonna really capture you. And obviously, a great wedding planner, because this is the person that's gonna be on top of you, making sure you don't get screwed over, making sure that everything is happening. Now, things that I wish could be like, okay, let me done with freaking Hora Loca, man. I'm like so done with that shit. Like, if you have a good DJ or you have a good band, you don't need to like another or maybe finding other things, maybe switching up the DJ, switching up the music. You had a band, then if you want like a like a new style, then you bring in the DJ to play hip hop or what have you, etc., and make it another party or move it into an after party and move everybody down somewhere else.
I've seen that happening a lot lately.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too if it's within the same location. If the minute you have to put people on a bus,
I get it. No,
you lose momentum.
Yeah, 100%.
You lose momentum. I don't care if you have what you're serving in the bus, it doesn't matter. But I would say get rid of Hora Loca and like let's be done with stationery, like menus and programs and I had a client recently that's like, oh no, we need programs because, again, the mother. Everybody needs to, no, you don't. That's a waste of money. And now with how much paper costs, it's just not worth it.
And who the fuck, like, I mean,
let me ask you,
the menu, cares. You don't actually order from the menu, right? It's just telling you what the fuck they're going to put in front of you, right?
Exactly, exactly. But, at some places you need it because, there's people have allergies or you're asking people to pre-select so that the waiter knows what this person pre-selected, etc. Definitely party favors, like, don't waste your fucking money on that. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody wants anything with yours and your husband's name on it. Nobody cares for that.
Right.
I don't want that shit in my house.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
I get it. Yeah.
Almonds, all that bullshit. Nobody cares. Like, that's such a waste of money. But people think, oh, those are little things. No, the little things add up. Before you know it, you're spending $5,000 on an Hora Loca, okay, on these people. Again, it served its purpose back in the day. But you come in, they come in and they bring in their own freaking music. And again, as a wedding planner, I'm tired of hearing that same fucking CD over and over again. I already know you're going to play Danza Kuduro and you're going to play this and Pitbull's going to come out and blah, blah, blah. Like, let the DJ do his own thing or whatever if we're going to do that. I'm just sick of it. I'm like, okay, like, enough of the party favors, enough of that. Like, I think there's better things to spend money on.
Yeah.
And I'm huge on the guest experience, you know?
Yep. Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Spend that money on more waiters and more staff so that people don't have to wait around for a drink.
Right. And, that's the thing, right? It's like, a lot of times I feel like people are throwing these events and these weddings, and it's like they forgot what it's like to be a guest. Like, what do you give a shit about as a
Right.
guest, right? Like, if me and you are building a fucking house to be an Airbnb, we shouldn't be building it to the specs of what we want because we ain't living in the motherfucker, right? Like,
Right.
it's that thing's for people who are going to come stay a few days. So we don't need walk-in closets and shit,
Right.
you know? Like, there are just some things that make sense and some things that don't. So I agree with you. Like, the guest experience sometimes gets overlooked because I feel, anyway, like, it's some weddings, and maybe that's just a Florida thing, I don't know, but it's like a showcase, you know? It's like this.
It's who can top whose wedding.
Yes.
That's what it ends up being. Oh, she had a floral ceiling installation. What can I do? Can I have fireworks coming out of mine? And it's like,
Right.
yeah, let's spend $30,000 on that for 2 seconds. Because
Right.
literally those sparks can only come out for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I got to spend money having a fire marshal there
Yeah.
to make sure nobody gets burned and shit doesn't happen.
Right.
So,
And those little things, like the fire marshal being, it's like people don't, we know this because we do it, but they don't know those added bullshit costs, but it is what it is. Like, it's law. You know, we can't be doing this fire and
Right.
shit and not have these people present.
and then
right?
at the same time,
it is what it is.
but if I have a client that has an unlimited budget, great. Let's do everything.
Yeah.
You know, we have
Understood.
it in there to do it.
Yeah, so I agree with you. It's if you have the money to fucking just do it all,
Right.
then do it. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, right? But if you're trying to do the best possible experience, yes, I think, like, I don't know, as a guy who runs a cocktail catering company, I agree with you. Like, the planner's so important because I feel like one of the biggest things your planner should be able to do is bring you back down to fucking earth, right? And I also feel like for the clients, you know, for brides out there, if you're listening to this, trust your fucking planner. Like, you hired her for a reason, you know? This is what the fuck she does. This is your first and only wedding, hopefully ever,
Yeah.
but this is all she does for a living. That's it. 23 fucking years, you said, right? You've been doing this every year of your life, every season, multiple fucking weddings. Like, I think that is I mean, again, it doesn't just, time in the industry doesn't just make you great at what you do, but it's a tremendous value that I think a lot of people don't give enough credit to. Like, I've seen and made every fucking mistake that could happen.
Exactly.
So because
Totally.
of that, I know how not to
Totally.
fucking make them, right? Like the CYA, cover your own ass thing, you know? Like, that's how we operate because we know what the mistakes can be. So it's like when someone's like, oh, you need to get here 3.5 or 4 hours early. It's like, I don't have to. But this is fucking South Florida. Like, it could be 1 PM on a Tuesday and you fucking, it's just bumper to bumper on 95 because
Exactly.
there's a fucking accident, right? Or how many times I've gotten to a venue and the event's on the rooftop and they're like, oh, the elevator is not working. You're like, great, wish I fucking knew that before I came today. You know, so you never know what you're going to run into. You don't know what issues can arise. No matter how good you are or how well organized, you'd be surprised at the things you might overlook and forget. And then you got to fucking fix that problem before the event gets started.
Logistics is huge, you
It
know.
is.
And being in this business for so long, you start creating a calendar of your events in your head. So when you have a client that calls you and is like, I want to get married at the end of March next year in downtown Miami. And I said, okay, have you considered Ultra? Have you ever been to Ultra? Do you know what Ultra is?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
the calendar starts spinning.
Sure.
You know, and February and March is huge. I want to get married President's Day weekend where in Coconut Grove. Well, guess what? There's this thing that's called the Arch, the Coconut Grove Arts Festival that's going to happen that weekend. Let's consider changing locations or changing the weekend altogether.
Yeah, or at least just, curbing your expectations so that
Correct.
you understand. Because I get it a lot. Like right now, for example, I'm getting tons of inquiries for, the first or second weekend of December.
Art
And
Basel.
yeah, of course. And so I always tell people this. Like, but the thing is, the inquiries that I'm getting right now are not Art Basel related. Right? Those always come at the last fucking minute. Like, they know the thing's happening every year.
Yeah, but
it's like
that's
fucking
corporate.
3-4
But
weeks
that's
before.
corporate
That's
for
when they
you.
start.
Yeah.
So these are other people, corporate events, Christmas parties, shit like that. And every time it's like, again, because I know what weeks are, much more challenging. I know what the challenges are. So it's like when someone contacts you, it's like, okay, look, I'm going to get you this proposal in 24 hours, but we got to turn around in no more than 48 to 72. Because if we don't, that date's probably gone, And if it isn't gone, then like you're just making it's becoming much more difficult for us, right? We might do 20 events that week. I need to rent extra trucks to pull this off. I need to get that staff
Exactly.
reserved as soon as fucking possible, or they will offer their time to someone else. So it's just knowing all of those things, like when you get a New Year's Eve party, like, you just know, like, okay, look, if you're renting glassware, they're not fucking delivering on New Year's Eve. So you have to be willing to take that shit 3 days before, and they're going to charge you for those extra days because you took it out of their inventory, right? the first timer doesn't fucking know that. He's just like, oh yeah, what do I usually pay? $1 per glass? Okay, cool. This is what I'm going to charge you. But me, I know that because I've just been down that road, you know? So yeah, I think, you know, your time in the industry, like everything in life, we have to fuck up along the way because that's how we learn and get better. You know, I knew a lot about cocktails, bartending, running bars. I knew nothing about events when I started doing this 11 years ago. So it's been a journey for me to learn not just the logistics of events, but how do I sell myself? And that kind of goes back to what we were talking before, you know, like the things that work in marketing and then the things that don't, right?
When I first started back, I'm dating myself so badly right now. There was this little book that was called The Perfect Wedding Guide, right?
Oh, God.
And that's how you advertise. Because remember, there was no social media. The internet was up and coming, but you know, you had a little website and
it wasn't much.
It wasn't
like
right. It was nothing
there.
spectacular. So you put your ad on The Perfect Wedding Guide and they will get you to do their bridal shows. And I spent a lot of money, a lot of bullshit money on that and the bridal shows. And I remember I did a huge bridal show at the Ritz-Carlton and I was like, oh, the Ritz-Carlton, I'm going to get tons of clients from here. Yeah, what a fucking joke. Did tons of shit. I ended up spending $5,000 back in the day on a bridal show where I did not even get one client from, right? Yeah. So the return on investment wasn't there. Yeah. So I can tell you from, obviously, you know, if you're starting in the business, the best thing to do is to shadow somebody. And I always welcome people. You want to come shadow me? You want? Absolutely. Listen, there's food for everybody to eat. Yeah. You know, 100%. I can't do every wedding. One wedding planner can do. I'm
a believer in abundance.
Yeah,
as well.
Absolutely. So, you know, and why not teach these women and men, you know, what they want to do, you know, the right way. Yeah. Right. I didn't have that. So of course I wanted to do that for somebody. I always want to be a mentor for somebody. So that doesn't work nowadays. Ads don't work.
Yeah. No,
at all. They just don't. And bridal showers, people go there to see what they're going to win. You're never going to book a client from a bridal shower.
And even if they were there shopping fucking budgets again. It's not, you know, you got to understand what your intention is as a vendor. And I don't want to like sit here and say that if you're just not fucking like aiming for the luxury event industry and charging stupid amounts of money, then you're just like, you ain't shit. No. When I started doing this, my first event ever, I did for free. It was donated product and I worked for tips. For Tito's Vodka, Casamigos before it was fucking like sold for $1 billion, and Papa's Pilar Rum. And I did this for a 5,000 person fishing tournament in West Palm Beach down in Clematis. And that was it. We made a bunch of money in tips and I walked out of there with cases of product because they gave it to us. But other than that, like, I mean, we're barely paid shit. But that was the thing, like my willingness to do things for just enough money to justify it, you know?
You have to.
Then I did it because that was how I made a name. So like, I've been contacted by other people who want to do something similar to what I do. And it's the same piece of advice every time. If you're just doing it the way everyone else is doing it, then expect the same fucking result everybody else gets.
Exactly.
I didn't invent cocktail catering. But when I got in it 11 years ago, there was only about 4 companies I knew of that did this. There was Icebox Bar in Charleston, Boris Van Dyke. He was doing like $5 million a year, a lot of business with Clemson University and shit. There was Garnish. I don't know her, but like look up her website. She's based in Hawaii. She makes beautiful fucking cocktails. There was Snake Oil in San Diego and another guy in Chicago. I can't even remember the name. That was it. That's all I could find. You know, there was nobody else fucking doing this at all. Cocktail catering was a name I gave it. I don't even think it was a real fucking term, you know? Mobile mixologist. Like I made that shit up one day. But it's like I see people with fucking, everybody's got a horse trailer or something they've converted to a bar. And so people reach out, you know, and what I see that they're doing is, you know, again, so if you're listening to this and you're a cocktail caterer, you want to get to that upper echelon level, I want you to hear this because as long as you keep making cocktails and putting them in plastic cups, you're going to be seen as a person that provides that
type of service.
Yeah. Even if I could put the glasses out, you know, it doesn't fucking matter. Like my standard from day one was putting cocktails in glasses because that's what you did in a bar, you know? And the feel of having it in a hard fucking glass or a fancy ass glass, whatever, is a different feeling to it, you know? Same with the garnish and all this other stuff. And so that's my first thing. Like you got to separate yourself from everybody because there's a lot of people that can get into this with basic bartending skills. Like you don't need a liquor license. It isn't that expensive to build a bar and shit, right? But who do you sell to? How do I market? And how do I work my way up? You know, I didn't start in luxury events. I started at the fucking very bottom, you know, and I worked my way there. But I think from the first day I started doing this, I always showcased myself as a service that was fit for high-end parties. I just had to work hard to get the attention of people like yourself who were planning those type of high-end weddings to say, hey, look at this guy over here. Looks like he's doing something cool. Let me give him a shot. And if I crushed that shot, then I was getting that call all the time. And that's why, like, you know, we probably know all the same cores of planners. We're Christina Manso, Layla Plant, Lisi Korn, you know.
Exactly.
I work with all these, you know, Sadi Sosa, like, I work with all these people because I built that reputation.
Absolutely.
And now they're like, if I need cocktails, great bartenders, and creative shit, I go to Richie, you know? And that's what you need in this industry. You know, I think that's what you're trying to build for yourself. Like, all of you planners, for me, are all unique in your own way. Like, when I look to Christina and Layla, I'm like, if you want to do a fucking kids party that's just like well over the top and out of this world, like, you call those two people, right?
Right.
You call people like yourself and Sadi and Lisi when you just have fucking money and you want to do something really elegant and creative at a wedding, because you guys deliver that every fucking time. Like, I watch the videos and I'm like, shit, that's fucking super cool. It's beautiful, right? And also amazing to me because, like, as a cocktail caterer, I'm focused on managing one thing. I don't know how the fuck you guys manage all these vendors. It's crazy to me.
It's when a bunch of tabs in your head.
Like, I'm juggling 6 planners in a week, and it's like, it's fucking stressful, you know? Like, if I had to manage like 20 fucking vendors, and I know how vendors can be, like, I can't even imagine. Some of them are probably like, ignore half your messages, hitting you up last minute.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking like just scrambling for info, not remembering any of the shit that you told them.
Right. But listen, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier too, that yes, there are vendors out there, and you end up creating a really close friendship with them. So it becomes a problem too, because you end up sending, hey, I need this proposal tomorrow, and they're like, oh, it's Marylen, she can get it Friday. You know,
but I think
and
you got to think the opposite on that
right,
one. I think.
But listen, I also did, and I remember I did a reel in 2022 because 2022 was a crazy fucking year for all of us. Everybody was coming out of COVID. Everybody wanted a party, and they wanted every weekend. Crazy. And I had weddings on a Thursday, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on in the world? So I had to say, you know, I had to make a reel to tell clients, particularly, listen, you're gonna get your proposal, you're gonna get your stuff, but we're all like trying to survive this 2022 year. We're super happy that we're back and we're working and there's tons of business. We are, you know, overjoyed that that's happening. But at the same time, we have less hands. Yeah. Because people decided when they were at home, I don't want to fucking go back there and go crazy and, you know, and listen to this bride scream or listen to this mother of the bride tell me this and pick up, you know, there was no service. You know, people in the service industry, you know, hotels were subcontracting from outside, you know, firms because they didn't have enough people. People were just like, you know what, forget it. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to become an accountant. I'm going to do this. You know, I'm not want to work. Yeah, nobody wanted to work.
Make fucking money. So come out of a time where we weren't making any money, and it was like, you thought everybody would be really hungry for it. But
so it gets back to that too. But going back to, sorry, I know we totally veered off subject, but going back to the whole ad situation, what I have seen that has worked for me throughout the years is building relationships with catering managers and with other vendors. Yeah. Building those relationships are what's going to continue to get you the business, aside from word of mouth.
Yeah, and managing them too. You got to managing it along the way. Meaning, like, you can't just, I know you, but we never talk. I never fucking like your content, support you in any way, shoot you business, whatever. Right.
I've been very lucky to be put on these, you know, prestigious lists as vendor referrals at these great, you know, resorts and hotels. That they see it and they're like, oh, Marylen Exposito. And it's because of the relationships that I've built with, you know, the catering managers and so forth, that they're like, every time Marylen does a wedding here, like, she doesn't bother me. Yeah. She doesn't miss shit. She's always on point. You know, let's continue
back to the be a pleasure to work with.
Exactly.
Right? Be a pleasure to work with. And people, you know, because in this industry, I'm sure you get it, there's so many people that operate with such a high level of stress. And I see it like with the planners and media. You can always tell. You can tell in 10 minutes of getting to an event. Because when you arrive, the first person you need to find is the planner. Hey, where's the bar? Where do you want me to put the bar? You know, things like that. Where can I park the truck? Yada, yada. If she is fucking frantic and like, you know, she can't even look me in the eye. She's like talking to like various people at the same time. Yeah. And you can tell like her voice is, you know, raised. She's not like, you know, she's not talking to you calmly. You're like, okay, fuck, this is going to be an interesting event. And usually when I get to an event and that's the situation, what I try to do at that point is step in a little bit more with my team and just take the full lead from like basically saying to myself, like, let's just bother her for nothing. Let's just, the next time she sees us, we're just crushing drinks for the customers. And she's just looking at the bar going like, thank God I don't have to worry about that. Because I got to go worry about this.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking in my mind. Let her worry about what she
And now that you
actually has to worry
mentioned
about.
that, to all of you planners out there, and this is what makes a great planner, is that you would send Richie the floor plan days prior to be like, this is where you're at in the bar.
Yes.
This is where my bars are
and
at.
days ahead, by the way. This is another thing, because like, we all, even us, like we care about our business. We're always going to do what we can to make the job for each other better, but we're both just fucking human, right? So it happens. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I might get so busy in a week that I forget to ask you a question. So I'm fucking asking you like the morning of the wedding or the day before. But I should know in my mind that you have so much shit to deal with within that day and the 24 hours before. Imagine how much the client is stressed, and that's only being trickled down to the planner, right? So the most you can do to leave you the fuck alone in that time frame is what I want to do, which is why, like, a lot of times I'll ask planners, do you have an assistant? Can I get their info, right? Because I don't even want to fucking call you when I get there. If you have an assistant, I'm going to call them.
Right.
I see them as like the person who's got to like fucking, okay, Richie's here, got the clipboard, everybody, checked in. The other, bothering you just doesn't seem like the right move. But also the flip side, like if I'm a planner, like as a vendor, the earlier we get that information, the better for all of us, right? Because what I'm doing is most of the time I have to relay that information because I have a team that's going to each event site. So it's more like, like I don't know if you deal with this, but I get planners who love to just text me and they love to call. And I get it because we're friends, we're homies, we do a lot of business together. The fastest way to get a message to me is to text me or call me. This fucking phone never leaves me unless I lose it, right? So I'm always kind of available. And when they do this, I'm always just like, please email. You got to email.
I'm the same.
You got to fucking email and you got to copy my life. And
I have an issue with that with clients as well. Because a client will text me, hey, this is what I'm thinking of for my mood board. And I'm like, please email it to me. Because I'm not going to remember to go back to this text.
100%.
And the opposite of that is sometimes we send timelines to our vendors.
And they don't check it.
And I have a fucking photographer 100%. The day of the fucking wedding asking me, where's the first look? Where's the ceremony? And I'm, read the fucking timeline. I sent it to you 3 days in advance. You're going to tell me you couldn't look at it before getting to the venue?
100%.
And you're texting me while I have madness going on around me?
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on. And I referred you. Come on.
No, we all have to do a better job at that aspect. So what I do is my team always gets event orders. And so anytime any of those pieces of information come to me from a planner, whether it's a floor plan or a timeline, those get attached to the event order. So it's not me who just sees it, it's the team. And I hold my team to the same level of responsibility you do for me. So if I didn't open that fucking thing and I'm just asking you blind questions because I don't want to read the document, right? You're going to call me on that, and I do the same shit with my team. And I deal with this all the time, not even with timelines and floor plans. I mean, I deal with it with event orders. I can tell because when a guy's asking me like, hey, where's the location of the event? It's like if you open the event order, it's in the top left corner. So then you would just like copy paste that in a Google Maps and
out of me
fucking
when they do that. And I'm like, Jesus, read the timeline.
Yeah, you
it's
just
not
read,
that
man.
fucking difficult.
We were all doing this off of information. All that information has to have some sort of organized record. This is why emails are so fucking important, right? Because again, like if you call me and say, hey, can you do me a favor and make sure that you bring wine glasses to the event? I'm going to provide wine for the bartenders. Sure. But I mean, fuck, I might get 8 other phone calls in the next several hours. Plus I have a fucking, I got a child, I got another kid on the way, I got a wife, I got a house I got to take care of, and 2 small fucking dogs. There's a lot of things going on. And you got team members asking me a million things. Before you know it, you forget to tell the guys, don't forget wine glasses tomorrow. Right. They just go off the event order. My wife didn't get an email, so she didn't put it on the event order as an additional note. So now the guys don't put the glasses in. And what does the client do when we get to the house? Why the fuck don't you guys have wine glasses? It's like if you had emailed this, we'd have no problem at all. 0, because we have somebody who's sitting in an office behind a computer running this shit administratively. So as soon as you send that, we add note to event order, it updates it, all that information goes to the guys. When you just tell me, I'm bouncing fucking everywhere because that's my job for my business, right? Answer phone calls, sales calls, meetings, do a podcast, make fucking social media videos, manage your team, like fix whatever shit broke today because that's just part of the norm. Like the
social
podcast studio we're in.
Social media is a second fucking job, man. Like as an entrepreneur, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, because, look, a lot of times, like when I go through these stages with social media. So like I go on a tear where it's like 4 or 5 months. I'm just making content every day and posting content all the time. And then I hit a wall for a little bit and I stopped for like a month or two, which I think is kind of good in a way. But
I mean, you're exhausted.
Yeah, you're fucking...
Then you get to the point and you're like, where the fuck is the creativity? What am I going to do? Because...
Yeah. And you don't want to just do shit. Like me, I don't like to make content around my business that is just like, I don't know, some kind of hot topic. Like I'll give you an example, right? Every time I make a video talking about fucking tequila, it does well. Every time. Why? Because tequila is just a popular topic, right? Yeah. And like the conversations about this is a good tequila will always spark controversy because some group of assholes in the comment section are going to tell me that tequila fucking sucks. You don't know anything about tequila. Right. Rah, rah, rah. Okay, cool. And then a whole other bunch of people will agree with me, and then a whole bunch of other people will just be interested in what I had to say, right? But I don't, like, I've never wanted to try to even pretend to be a fucking alcohol expert.
Connoisseur,
like,
yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I like cocktails, but I don't even like alcoholic spirits on their own. I don't drink whiskey fucking neat or on the rocks or tequila like sippers. No, I don't do that shit. It's not me. I'm 40 years old. My hangovers are fucking awful. I have 2 small children now, right? Like, well, I'm sorry. I have 1 small daughter who's 5 and I have another one on the way. It's like, I don't have time to even drink or sip like that. So I don't, you know? So even though I know that content could go well and it could get me views and it can get me engagement and it can get me followers, it's just not what I want to do. I don't feel like it's showcasing who I actually am. And that's part of the reason of this podcast is like, I've been doing this for 11 years. You've been doing this for 23 fucking years. There's a lot you learn in that time frame. I'm constantly getting asked from people how I did this, what's my story, you know, how I, managed to get high-end, events. And I think it's just a good platform for people to be able to watch this, learn from people like yourself. You know, if I'm a bride and I'm getting married, I probably don't have a fucking clue what I'm about to get myself into. And hearing it from people like you, like I'm going to, like you said before, I asked you 150, 200 people, what's that going to cost? 150 grand. So I want everybody out there who's like listening to this to understand that you don't have to spend $150,000 fucking dollars to throw a wedding. Yeah. But if you want 200 people to be there, right? And you want to provide all the shit for them in Miami, then that's just what it's going to run you. So like when people throw me these large parties, I'm like, awesome, because I know that that's a big ticket. But I'm also very skeptical because I'm like, I don't think they understand what it's going to cost to serve 600 fucking people on New Year's Eve. Like, I don't think they grasp. And then you send them like an invoice for like $35,000 and they're like, what the fuck? And you're like, first off, it's New Year's Eve. Secondly, you want like 16 fucking staff members, right? Yeah. And you have 600 people. Like every time they have a drink, do you know how much ice, cocktail ingredients, garnishes, and glassware depletes every time they have one fucking drink? Like, it's just the mathematical equation of one drink per person at 600 and what it takes to serve them. I mean, I'm already thousands of dollars in the hole by just passing a drink over the bar 600 times.
No, my favorite is when they ask you, oh, so I want a wedding on New Year's Eve. Why is everything double? Well, it's a holiday. You're taking the DJ away from spending time with his family. You know, it has to be worth it for all of us. You're taking all of us, all of our time away from celebrating 100%. New Year's Eve.
And even if it wasn't that being the reason, right? How about like just the fact, this is fucking Miami. Like, this is what I tell people. If you don't want to pay that bartender $500, somebody is gonna.
Somebody else will.
That's it.
Definitely.
And that's how it works here.
Definitely.
You know, we're not in fucking, no disrespect to like Ohio or some shit. I mean, I'm from a small town, Tiverton. We're not there. We're not in Tiverton, Rhode Island, you know? This is fucking Miami. Like, these guys could go walk into, there's tons of events happening all over the city. There's people throwing private parties. There's clubs, just in a restaurant. I mean, when I worked in restaurants, if I had an average New Year's Eve, I would make $500-$600. Average. Great fucking New Year's Eve, I make like $1,000, right? So no one's gonna give that money up as a bartender to come do your event, you know, when they know they can make more. So that's how it works with us. So, you know, for everybody out there that's wondering why it costs you more money to do fucking events on holidays, because we are paying more money to do your event. It's not because I'm saying I just want the value of my time on New Year's Eve is just more expensive. No, I got to pay the fucking staff more money to actually do this event. And just so you understand, if there's anything we're getting from another outside vendor, they're going to charge us more money as well. So if I need a fucking ice machine delivery, that's going to be pricier on New Year's Eve. If you got to rent glassware on that fucking day, it's going to be more money. Everything about it will cost more money. And, you know, again, if the event's down here, it's important to understand. For the vendors, I know this might sound shitty, but we've done plenty of fucking events from October 1st through Christmas that I don't really need to do something on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So I will 100%, because I do believe that, when duty calls, you service the people. But I service them at the price that I want to service them at. And I think that that is fair. And people have to expect that. Like, if you don't have that expectation, I'm just letting you know you're starting off on a drastically wrong foot, because anything holiday related, peak week related, whatever it is, it's going to be more expensive. And you should expect that. Like, if we got to fucking give up, I got times a year where the guys don't get a day off for like 3 fucking straight weeks at all. Sometimes a month. 30 straight days of work never stops, because again, like I said in the beginning, your events do not happen in one day.
Right.
They happen in a multitude of days. So if you just throw 3 events to me in a week, somehow I have to make the schedule so that there's people working every day, because there's just no time frame to be able to execute those 3 events, break down, prep, batch, do all that shit, load trucks and everything by just like doing it the day before and then just doing the event. Like, it's not a thing, right? It doesn't happen. So, big reason why I want to do this podcast, because I want to educate people. I want people to understand what we go through in this, why we fucking charge what we charge, like, go look. I mean, working in the event industry as a planner or a vendor is probably in the top 10 most stressful fucking jobs that you can have in this country.
And it's also really hard to struggle with setting boundaries, because, I have clients that'll text me on a Sunday, on a Saturday in the middle of an event, on 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, dude, I have a life too, you know. So you gotta like learn to set those boundaries. Put your phone on do not disturb. And then I have a client, a client that'll send an email on a Friday, and then first thing Monday, she's like, oh, I sent you an email on a Friday. You haven't responded. I was like, yes. And if you looked at my Instagram or what have you,
I'm busy.
I have a wedding.
100%.
And Sunday, I cannot talk to anybody. I can't even talk to my mom that day, because I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what my name is. I'm like totally wiped out.
I mean, look, if you're reaching out to me and I'm fully available on every single weekend, it probably means I'm not that good at what I do, because I'm not that busy, right? Weekends should be slammed for anybody who's in the event industry. You're right. I probably won't answer you through the weekend, just because I have other shit going on. And I'd rather just leave your text unread, and then on Monday, just get right back into the office and get back to everybody. Because when you just start scattering yourself and spreading out really thin just to get back to everyone's message as fast as possible,
you're never going to get shit done.
You never get shit done. And not only do you not get shit done, but that's how you start getting disorganized,
Things fall through the cracks.
100%. Like, I'd rather just let me sit in the office and do everything in one place,
and
then I can actually give it proper thought. Because right now my mind's in this event, and if I just take my mind off of that to send this message, then I'm in 2 different places. I need to be present here, right? And so my message usually to clients is like, the day that I'm doing your event, you want me as fucking physically and mentally present at your event and not at somebody else's. Correct. So like, let's just understand that, right? So yes, weekends, you shouldn't expect a lot of fucking replies from us. And then to double down on that, because it's something I saw recently in this last 2 weeks, because of the fucking lovely hurricanes that we always get in South Florida. That didn't happen here, but they did happen in other places, right? And so there's a woman. She has a company. I think it's called Oh My Pleasures. She's an event company. She's a planner up in Tampa.
Oh, that's Amber. Oh, my events.
Yes. Oh, my events, right?
Oh, my occasions.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So this is for you, because I want you to know that, first off, I hope you hear this, because I've been following your story all the way through the storm. And I know that this was really hard for her. She constantly was posting things on her story to try to get the clients to understand what she's going through. And I'm imagining it's probably because she had a lot of clients who were like fucking just blowing her up. They needed this proposal, or they needed her to jump on this call. And this poor lady's got, a husband who's a first responder, so she doesn't even get to spend the time with him. She's in a fucking hurricane zone twice in 2 weeks with 2 little kids. She has to mandatory evacuate. She has no idea what she's coming back to. Doesn't even know if venues that she's hosting fucking weddings in are going to be up and running, right? So it's back to what you said before. We are all humans. And this is what I do for a living, and I understand how fucking important this is for you. And trust me, I get a lot of clients who don't even live in Florida. So like, yes, you have your wedding next year that's happening. You can't even understand what it is we go through in 5 days just anticipating this fucking storm's arrival and trying to figure out where it's going to land and how it's going to affect all of us. So, if take her as an example, you know, because I'm sure it was really hard for her to go through what she had to go through these last couple weeks. I felt for her, even though I don't know Amber like very personally, but we obviously support each other on social media. But I could feel that pain as a dad, as a husband, as someone who lives in Florida. I live in Hollywood too, by the way. And when we just get a rainstorm, my fucking warehouse gets like fucking 7 inches of water. So like my stress level of getting a hurricane like that would just be through the roof because I might lose everything that I use to do business unless I find some fucking alternative for it for a week, right? So, you know, for those of you out there listening who have planners and vendors, you know, and you're getting into your events, just understand, like, we go through the same shit you do. Like, we're fucking human, you know? My kids get sick. Yeah. They go to school. Sometimes their fucking school doesn't have them go to school, and I got them at home while I'm trying to do office work. It's all the same shit that they go through. Again, if you hired the right vendors and you got the right planners, trust me, they're gonna figure it out, right? Yeah. Like, you're never a lost priority for me. It's just that, you know, I'm human, so I can't tell my fucking like child
you've never seen Wonder Woman and me in the same room at the same time, but no, I'm not Wonder Woman. Right. I am human. I have a life. Everything that's happening, you know, has its circumstances and it affects us all.
100%, you know? Yeah. We all need to be.
And listen, and if you were a planner during COVID and your backbone didn't get any stronger, you're in the wrong business.
100%, yeah.
Okay, because that was a shit show.
It was a shit show. My situation was really interesting. I closed on my house on March 20th, 2020. Ooh. So that was the week after everything went to shit. So, you know, most people would be signing the papers to their house, very happy with a smile on their face, this whole new life you're about to embark on. And I was sitting there like fucking depressed with this miserable look on my face because I was writing a big ass check in cash that I thought I needed to keep on hand to keep my fucking business up and alive. It ended up being obviously you know, and I've said this to a lot of people, and keep this in mind if you're a business owner or just regularly in your life. It is very true that most of the time when you think your life or a situation has come about and you're just totally fucked, you know, like the situation is just totally screwed, there's no bouncing back from this, it's usually never as bad as you think. And usually you can never see the tremendous positive gain that's going to come from that in that shitty moment, right? So I was sitting in my house, fucking miserable, thinking this is the worst decision I ever made. That house is worth like 55% more than what it was in 2020. I was able to like forego my mortgage for a fucking year and not even make payments versus if I was still renting an apartment, that would have been a different story, right? So there was a lot of things. And then you said it before, like being in Florida, by the end of that year, you know, I put a lot of time into social media that year, so I kept myself relevant because it was the one thing I could do for my business. It wouldn't cost me any money.
I remember seeing you in the Gather and Soar. Remember, it was online, and you were there making cocktails.
Exactly. And so it was like, I was doing online fucking like cocktail classes, doing cocktail kit boxes, shipping them around, trying to sell those to corporate groups that I lost my events with. And, you know, it's just interesting because then by the time that end of the year came around, I mean, my wife didn't go back to work. I needed her to run administrative shit because I had so much going on. I had to start hiring my first employees. I needed a bigger warehouse. I needed new company trucks. Like everything just started. It was a fucking extravagant. Yeah, it went from I doubled my revenue every year after 2020 for 3 straight years. So like whatever I did that year, I doubled it again, then doubled it again. And that's when in the event industry, it's a fucking huge thing to be doing that because you got to make a lot of moves real fast. Like you can't just do $300,000 in events and then go do 800 and think that you could just run it by yourself. Like it's not gonna happen. Yeah. So, you know, it picked up really fast and we were able to come out of that really quick, you know, so I'm definitely blessed and grateful for that. But, you know, I think for those that came out of it, you know, shining, it wasn't coincidence. It was because you put yourself in a position to be successful through all that. Because I know a lot of people that just kind of like closed up fucking shop and just
left
moved on.
And forget
you
it.
know?
Yeah.
But some people were like, I'm not, you know, what I did know was this. I didn't know when COVID would end. I didn't know how this thing would come to an end, but I knew people were getting married again. Yeah. I knew the events would come back because this is what the city is about, right?
Yeah. And we did micro weddings. I remember. Yep. I had several micro weddings.
I had a bunch of them too. Like little fucking tiny, like 25-person things. I had weddings where you had to get fucking tested that morning.
Did that too.
Funny story.
And it ended up being everybody was negative, and it ended up being a super spreader. So go for it.
I actually had it where we all got tested the week of at an offsite facility, and then we had to be retested again the morning when we got to the location. Well, when we got there, the wedding was canceled because the bride tested positive for COVID. So it was, and that was a tough one because she had to reschedule, and it was one of those situations where, of course, the day that they needed to reschedule to, I could not commit because I had committed to somebody else, and I just didn't have the availability anymore. But yeah, those were interesting times for sure. But
we'll say interesting for sure.
We'll just say interesting.
But listen, like I said, if you made it out of there alive and stronger, and you're still in the business, then great. That 100%. Was the make or break year, and it broke a lot of people. And they were just like, forget it. This is a sign. This isn't for me, et cetera, et cetera.
I do a lot of corporate events, and how I got corporate events was because, I used to work for team building companies and have a team building company myself called Miami Social. And so I had built these connections with destination management companies, or DMCs as they call it, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't know what a DMC is, and you're in the event industry, basically a DMC is who's going to handle all of the fucking large logistical planning for a massive corporate group that's coming here. Let's say you got 500 people coming from Coca-Cola. They're going to the Fontainebleau. You need transportation, dinners. You need AV equipment. There's meetings. There's all sorts of outside vendors. Yeah. They take care of all that shit for you, okay? So companies like me, they'll use to come in and do things like branded cocktails for, events that they're doing for the corporate group on this property, et cetera. So anyway, that was the biggest change I seen post-COVID, right? Those offices, some of them that I used to do business with, had sales teams of 55 girls or guys. And now they're a team of 4. And that's years after COVID. That entire fucking DMC scene, in my opinion, from what I see both with the team building company and cocktail catering, is it's completely changed the face of that industry. I can remember Hello Florida. Hello Florida was the biggest fucking DMC down here. Mm. And they were in every state. You had Hello Florida, Hello Atlanta, Hello New York, Hello Boston, Hello, whatever. Now I think they're just a centrally located corporate office somewhere in the States. There's not a Hello Florida anymore, to my knowledge, right? It's just Hello DMC. Mm-hmm. Because I just don't think those DMCs are willing to build up those teams again because everybody's too afraid of that retraction. Could you imagine? I mean, we were lucky because we did private events and weddings. Those came back at the end of that year of COVID and beginning of the following year. Corporate events didn't come back for a fucking while.
A really long time.
It was years.
A really long time.
I only started...
think about it. Everybody was working remote. So
and I just think there was the risk factor. No corporation wanted to throw the super spreader event in fucking Miami.
Oh, that's what they did.
Exactly, right? That's going to look like shit. So... that took a while to come back. I think with weddings, like I said, it was kind of obvious, who the fuck's just going to decide now not to get married because we had, this COVID thing. No, people are just eventually going to, as soon as they're allowed to, they're just going to do it. And they're going to find ways to take
precautions. I think, when did DeSantis open up? June? Was it June, July?
I think so.
Something around there. Yeah, that restaurants started opening up, this and that or whatever. So I had a client that was scheduled to get married in August. And she was like, I need to get married in August. And I said, well, what about if we push it to December? Maybe, no. If it doesn't happen in August, I'm not getting married. And I was like, oh, fuck, here we go.
Oh, jeez.
So it was a lot of back and forth. It was at the Ritz-Carlton in Coconut Grove. That Ritz was still they were not taking events. So we moved it to Key Biscayne because Key Biscayne had a really, they had enough space outdoors to have this 200-person wedding. And it was in August, 200 people. And we had it. But remember, back then, there was no dancing. You could have music, but you couldn't dance. You couldn't have a dance floor.
Right.
It was beginning August. So very, very, peak COVID. Yeah. And it was black tie. And I remember saying to the client, listen, since everybody's going to be outside, don't you think we should change it? People are going to be hot. It's August. Nope. My wedding's going to be black tie. And everybody's going to be dressed in black tie. I was like, okay, 200 people. They all said, yes, they're coming. But back then, our limit was the max you could have at a table was 4 people.
Jeez.
So I ended up with 40-something cocktail tables. Okay, 40-something cocktail tables, everything outside. Us as vendors had to have a mask on at all times, especially as a vendor. As a guest, the minute you sat down, you could take it off to eat, etc. But they were looking at you like a hawk, One of the most difficult weddings I've ever had to do. And the next day I had no voice because, again, I'm in the heat, running around with a dress on and, having a mask on for 10, 12 hours and getting home and being like, oh, my God, I totally lost my voice.
You think that's probably one of the most challenging weddings you've ever done?
It was definitely challenging. I'll tell you this. It wasn't the most challenging wedding I've had. I'll tell you a story. This was probably April 2014, 2015. I should know the date exactly because of what I'm about to tell you. I had a wedding, 180 people at the Colonnade.
Okay.
And it was a Saturday in April. So again, peak season.
Yep.
And I'm driving to the Colonnade, and the catering manager from the Colonnade at the time, Patricia, calls me and she says, "Hey, when you get here, don't go into the garage. You can't park in the garage. You're going to have to find street parking." And I'm like, "What the fuck? What are you talking about?" "Yeah, there's a gas leak in the building. I have your bride out here, like, waiting, and she's, like, with her hair in, like, rollers and shit and, waiting to get her makeup done." And it was still fairly early. I said, "Okay." The groom was a firefighter, so I called him, and I was like, "Hey, this is going on." He's like, "Oh, that happens all the time. They're going to let you back in the next half an hour, so you'll see." I was like, "Okay." So I park my car, I get there. My vendors start getting there, like the band starts getting there, and they're all standing outside. And I'm like, "Okay, bride, we moved to another hotel to be able to get done."
Yep.
An hour goes by, and I'm telling the catering manager, "Okay, when?" "No, they're still saying that they're still looking for the gas leak. They're still looking for the gas leak." I'm like, "Okay." Another time goes by. I'm like, "Okay, like, what's going on?" "No, we're still waiting." And I was like, "Look," I told Patricia, "Listen, this waiting shit is not happening. Like, I'm going to start calling hotels and seeing where else it's available where I can stick 180 people. So I call the Epic. Lourdes calls me back from there, and she's like, "Marylen, no, like, we're booked." I'm like, "You don't have any other space?" "No." I call the JW Marriott. Back then, my friend Stacy was working there. She's like, "No, Marylen, this is crazy. It's a Saturday in April. I don't have anything." I was like, "Okay." I called Jungle Island. My friend Mercy's like, "Marylen, like, we're booked solid." I'm like, "Fuck, but you guys can fit like 1,000 people in your ballroom." "We're booked. It's a Saturday in April." At the time, the catering manager in Jungle Island's husband worked at the Coral Gables Country Club. And she called them, and she calls me, and she's like, "Hey, he says that they have their small room, the atrium room in the back, available. The grand ballroom is taken, but you can have the atrium in the back." And I'm like, "Fuck, but I got a band that got 180 people. That's just going to be tight as hell." She's like, "I'm just telling you that's what they got." So I tell the catering manager, "Listen, this is what happened." She's like, "Marylen, you're going to see we're going to be able to get in." And I was like, "Listen, I have all my vendors waiting outside. The ceremony starts in an hour at a church in St. Patrick's in Miami Beach." I was like, "You got to fucking tell me what the fuck is going on, So she's like, "Go to St. Patrick's. I'll keep you posted." I am like, I swear to God, Richie, I can deal with stress. And this was the time where I was like, I'm going to fucking throw up. I'm going to throw up. Like, it's going to happen because I don't know what else to do.
I want to throw up just hearing it. It's fucking...
So I park at St. Patrick's. The minute I put the car in park, my phone starts going off, and it's Patricia. She's like, "So the fire marshals are telling us it won't be till midnight that we can get back in the hotel." And I said, "So what are you doing about it?" And she's like, "I'm getting in the car and I'm going to the Coral Gables Country Club to negotiate with them." I was like, "Fuck negotiating. Whatever they want, you better pay it. We need to figure this out." So she calls me back 5 minutes later. She's like, "Okay, they're charging us 20 grand. We're just going to pay it. Move the wedding over here." I was like, amazing. So I had to, at the church, make an announcement to tell all the guests, "Hey, you're not going back to the Colonnade. You're going to the Coral Gables Country Club." Meanwhile, having my linen people over there, the florist putting everything back, the band setting up, everything, all of this is going on. Again, why you always have to work with great vendors and they have to be flexible. And bride still doesn't know what the fuck is going on. She still thinks we're having the wedding at the Colonnade.
Oh, wow.
So I get to the church and I tell the groom, "This is what's happening. Do not tell her until after the ceremony. After the ceremony, we'll tell her. But I don't want her walking down the aisle thinking that her wedding is a shit show." So I tell them, and after the ceremony, I tell her. And she took it pretty calm. I'm like, "We have a place to move you to. It's going to be the Coral Gables Country Club. It's not going to be what you envision, but you're having a wedding today." Because she had family from Puerto Rico coming to town, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, of course.
So we had the wedding.
That's fucking good. But you pulled it off, right?
I pulled it off.
Was she happy?
They sued the Colonnade.
Okay.
It wasn't, so this is what sucks at the end of the day. The gas leak happened because the city was drilling a hole on the sidewalk and hit the gas leak.
So it wasn't the Colonnade's fault.
It wasn't the Colonnade's fault, but the Colonnade has insurance to cover it. It wasn't the city's fault per se because they subcontracted. So my client made money off of the wedding because they got money back from the Colonnade, the city, and the subcontractor at the end of the day. Right. Now, did my clients themselves appreciate it? Yeah. But I'll tell you what it was like being in my spot. It was really rough because, again, remember, active bitch face.
Yeah.
I'm like, no empathy, like, go, go, go. Let's get this wedding done. I need to figure out where I'm going to stick all these people. Like, I'm like this, like focused, like, let's go. What's going to happen? And the mother calls the Colonnade on Monday speaks to the director and says how disappointed she is. Obviously, don't worry, we're gonna get you money back. This is what happened. It's not our fault, but we understand. Blah blah blah. She's like, well, and the director of catering at that time at the Colony says to her, well, at least Marylen was able to find you a spot. She's like, yeah, but I have a complaint about her too. I didn't feel she was empathetic to what we were going through. And listen, again, straight up here. I said, oh, that's what she told you. Give me a minute. The car, I said, hey. So I heard, no, we're super grateful. No, I heard you said that I wasn't empathetic. I wasn't empathetic. Well, you were very cutthroat. I said, yes. You know why? Because if I sit there and I start fucking crying with you and your daughter, nothing's going to get done.
Of course.
If I sit there and start crying, your daughter would not have had a wedding.
Yeah, our job is not to share in the emotions with you.
It's not.
It's not. It's to steer the fucking ship in the middle of the storm so that you could just enjoy the fucking ride, right? That's what it's supposed to be. That people fucking fail to understand that. So I agree with you. I get it. And if anything, I applaud you for having that mental fortitude because most people don't. They fucking I think I'm fairly mentally strong as well. But if I was in that position, I mean, it would feel like a collapse. This is literally falling apart. The roof is caving in and the amount of time it takes to set up a fucking room for a wedding, especially a high-end wedding, is fucking the people start the day before in most cases, just depending on what the decoration is. To do that in a matter of hours while people are in the middle of a ceremony is fucking crazy. So I think it's in 1 hour. I mean, that should demonstrate empathy right away because you gave a shit enough. Everything that's happening is out of your control. You can't control it, but you have a willingness to do whatever the fuck has to get done in this moment so that, as you said, we have a wedding today. That's the goal.
It has to happen.
Has to happen, right? So that should have been enough demonstration of fucking empathy. Whatever someone's face looks like while they're fucking performing that doesn't mean a fucking thing. And it's not even, in my opinion, up to somebody else to judge that.
Yeah.
All you should care about was, did this person even do something? If you did something to resolve the issue, and we ended up having a wedding, that should be seen as a glorious and monumental fucking achievement in and of itself. And a demonstration of giving
because of my contacts, because the people at the Colony, they weren't making calls to see who had 100%. Availability.
No, they're not going to.
I was doing all the legwork.
And again,
And side note, plot twist, 2 years later, they got divorced. They're both remarried now, but 2 years later, they got divorced. So if that wasn't a sign...
Yeah. And, look, this is nothing against the colonnade either, but, back to your point about, they weren't calling anybody. This is because what the destruction of that day means to you versus the colonnade is not even comparable. And this is why I'm such a fucking, cheerleader of small businesses. Because small business is really what gives a fuck.
They care.
The money you pay me, just so you understand... It pays other people who work for me, who pay their bills, right? And it makes me proud that some of those people are my friends and they work for me and they're able to pay their bills through what it is we do together. It pays for my daughter's education because she goes to private school. It pays for everything that I need for her in life, whether that's fucking transportation, education, clothes, food, you name it.
Yeah.
My wife, same thing. You're supporting so much in that process. You have no idea. So every dollar, every follower, every click, every like means the fucking world to me. If I'm some big corporation, or I'm just some big ass hotel brand, whoever is really making the fucking money off of your wedding, you're not dealing with. You understand? You're just dealing with people that they paid to go shovel the shit that they don't want to shovel. And so those people are not going to care to the point where they're going to make those phone calls and scramble the fuck around to fix this problem. Because at the end of the day, they can just write a check back to you and, okay, well, whatever, and guess what? They're still going to get more fucking clients, right? But if that story gets out about you and everybody points at you like it's Marylen Exposito's fault, that's going to affect your brand. It's going to affect your reputation. It's going to literally affect your bottom line. And that's way more impactful to a small business owner than some big ass fucking hotel brand that's going to continue to book events. And I know this because I go to fucking hotel properties, some of the most expensive ones in this fucking city, to do corporate events all the time. And I am blown away by what some of you pay and what you get. Because you don't even fucking know how bad it is. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these hotels with the unionized bartenders and staff in the event, they don't give a fuck about your event. They literally are like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. We've seen staff just refuse to do things for guests, walk off their bar, show up late, whatever. Some of the disgusting shit you will see like behind
the
closed doors and corridors.
It's
just mind blowing, because we know the markups these people are paying to do these things in here. But again, I think as a small business owner, it reassures you that you're doing the right thing because you're trying to do it better than that, and you're not just like doing this for money.
Right.
Like, yes, I do it for money, but I really care about that end result, just like you did on that fucking day, right? This chick needs to get married. We need to make this happen. It's not going to be the perfect vision,
right, yeah.
but it is what it is. And
but
just
listen, and I've had weddings also or events that we've set up, and it's Miami, it fucking starts raining.
Yeah.
And nowhere on the Doppler does it say that there's a cloud. No, all of a sudden, but because I went through that, I'm like, that shit, the sun's going to come out. It's going to get dried. We'll move it, whatever.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah,
but there I was stuck. I was like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah. I mean, it's, same. Like, we get to events and it's like, well, maybe I want to put the bar here. Maybe I want to do it over there. What do you think? It's like, my answer is very simple. Whatever you feel is the best. Whatever you want, that's what the fuck we're here to do.
Right.
It doesn't, my job is not to be difficult.
Yeah.
It's to be easy because
and realistic.
This is probably, and realistic. Because this is probably more stressful for you than it is for me. I do this 200 plus times a year, So eventually, I got to go do an event later tonight. We got 3 of them tomorrow. It's happening. While I'm here doing this podcast, there's guys at the warehouse taking care of everything, packing shit, loading shit, prepping shit, batching stuff, etc. But you get there, It used to be just all fucking me, So anyway, my last question for you, I'm interested to know, and I'll kind of tell mines as well. But in all your years of doing this, what's the most luxurious, high-end event you've ever done? And if there's a price tag on it, I want to know what that is. I know what mine's is, and I'll tell you. But I'm curious to know what the most elegant fucking event is you've ever done. We heard the worst one.
I have 2.
Now, what's kind of the best one?
I have 2 of them, and they were both pretty high up there.
And let me ask you this, too. Did the fact that they were high-end weddings make it more pleasurable for you as a planner?
Absolutely.
Is it better for you
Absolutely.
when people have a budget for you to be able to execute your vision?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it makes it easier in that aspect, but it also puts more pressure in.
Yeah.
Like, this shit has to come out fucking perfect.
Right.
Because
and
again,
we all feel that.
Coming from
more money you take from
like, to quote Journey, just a small town girl, right? Coming from a girl from Hialeah that didn't grow up with a lot of money.
Me neither.
You value your clients' money more than probably they do.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. If you're out there listening, we value your money more than you actually do.
Yeah.
So we see this and we're like, wow, I had a client that spent close to $500,000 in decor alone. I had a client that spent $300,000 in decor alone, and I was like, "These parties have to fucking rock it," you know. Another client spent like $40,000 on a band. Like, these weddings have to fucking rock it, So it's a little bit more stressful in the sense that you have to organize yourself extremely well, make sure that everything that day flows as smoothly as possible. But it's a lot easier to work because you're working with the vendors that will go above and beyond.
Right, they're going to go to that level.
And they want to make sure that, that this wedding, like I had one of my florists tell me at one of these luxurious weddings that I did, these top luxurious weddings that I did, he's like, Marylen, I'm going to go above and beyond because I want this wedding to break the internet. And it fucking did. It broke the
And it's true,
internet.
like you said, and we know that too, right? Like, I'm going to do a wedding in Rhode Island this New Year's Eve. I don't want to say it's like a famous couple, but one of them won a competition on a famous TV show. The other one used to play soccer for the USA women's national team. And I'm like willing to throw everything at it because I want to do weddings permanently in Rhode Island in the summer because it coincides with our off season. And that's where I'm from.
Right.
I'm from there. So I have some connections of like high-end wedding planners and stuff like that. So I get that because for me, I don't even care what I spend to go do the event. It's more about when the video and the photos and everything start circulating, people are going to ask the questions of like, who did those cocktails? Who's that guy juggling fire or whatever? Like that's what you want because ultimately what I've learned in being business for myself, learn a skill, do it the best you can, use social media to get people's attention. Once you got that attention, now people want your craft to be a part of whatever it is that they're doing, then you can start to monetize it. And that's all I did, like So if you're a bartender out there and you're like me 11 years ago and you're sick of working for fucking tips and you're sick of these dark four walls and you're sick of the late nights and the early fucking mornings, like I was a struggling bartender who maybe made $55,000, $60,000 a year in South Florida doing seasonal fucking tourist bartending because in the summertime you had nobody. And I took the concept of bartending and I turned it into a business that does like $1 million in events a year, you know? Doesn't mean I make $1 million a year. That's not the case, but that's what the business does. And the point is like, you know, I never tried to be like the greatest, most creative fucking bartender in the world. I just fucking cared. And I knew that I could manage people. I could manage expectations. I was responsible enough to deliver what I was selling you. And I cared enough that like if I didn't, I would fall apart more than you would be pissed at me. You know, like you didn't need to motivate me to do better because I'm that self-motivator, you know? Right. I know if I didn't do a good job and I need to do fucking better the next time. I don't even need somebody to tell me because I know it in myself. I always say the hardest person to lie to in this world is your fucking self because you know the truth. You can lie to everybody else very easily, but lying to yourself, if you know you did a shit job, then you know you did a shit job. And that's it, you know? And it's the people who just ignore that are never going to find real success.
And listen, there's thousands of people that are more talented than you and I.
100%.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Thousands.
Yep.
But if you don't have the hustle, talent goes to shit.
No, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's not easy to do this, you know, in any way, shape, or form. The amount of sleepless nights and stressful days and fucking there's no food. And I mean, I don't go through as much of that today because I have a team that can help me out. But when I didn't have that team, fuck, man. I mean, you know, I'm the kind of guy that I never restricted my events. I took everything. It didn't matter what fucking chaos. I mean, last year on November 9th, we did 7 fucking events in the same day. 3 of those were weddings. Wow. 1 was a corporate event and the other 3 were private parties. That took me 26 staff members, 7 different vans. Like, it was a fucking lot, you know? Everything went off without a hitch. No problems, you know? But that happened mostly because the people that I put at the events. And I just can remember, like, that week going through all the, like, being at the warehouse nonstop. And one of the guys that was working for me, like, looked at me and was like, dude, it's kind of impressive the amount of organization you can keep in these events. Like, you know what truck needs fucking what you got to load in each one, who's working each event. And I can't even keep track of it when you give me, like, the event orders. You know, I got to keep looking through everything. I'm like, that's just an experience thing. Because I wasn't always that way, you know? So I think, like, you end up finding that groove. Like, I don't stop thinking about my events, so I'm just constantly running that shit through my mind. So that's why I, you know, like, it sticks, you know? Like, I just know who's doing what.
It's also very emotional in our end, because, especially as a planner, because, again, you're not just dealing with other vendors. There is an emotional aspect to it. You're juggling families. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. You're juggling families that parents may be divorced. Maybe they're going through the divorce during the wedding. It gets ugly. You have to separate when you bring in the bride and when the mother of the bride is there and then the father of the bride is coming and they can't see each other. So it's rough. And I'm like, I was not born to be a shrink or a psychologist because I'm the type of just fucking deal with it. At the end of the day, can everybody just be a fucking adult? Be a fucking adult on your kid's wedding. Yeah. I'm sorry he cheated on you and he's bringing the mistress that he cheated on you with to the wedding. Fuck it. Forget about it. Your daughter's getting married. Be an adult. Get pissed at that after midnight. Yeah. You know? Unfortunately, we live in a world where, you know, common sense isn't very common and adults don't necessarily always act like fucking adults, right? That's just sort of that's the way of the world as it is today. Yeah. But yes, I said I would leave off with the story of my most elaborate wedding ever. So this was, and again, you know, this is kind of for the people out there who are aspiring to, like, be vendors themselves. You know, it took me a while to get to this point. I think this was 3 years ago. So I'd been in business for 7 years at this point. And then I get contacted by this lovely lady named Lisi Korn who wants me to come do this 5-day Jewish celebration at, what is it? The St. Regis over in Ball Harbor, right? Nice. The total cost of that 5 days was $8 million. And I 100% believe it because the things that you saw that went on during those 5 days were just
unbelievable. I mean, the amount of money they spent on white and red roses alone was just fucking astronomical. They had that really, really badass event designing team there with her from New York City. I can't remember. Birch. Shout out to them. They're fucking, Josh is incredible. I don't know him personally, but I've seen him at a few events I've done. And
I saw that event. That was gorgeous.
They do some fucking absolutely stunning wedding setups. Also, like, they had orchestra symphonies from fucking New York. They had ballet dancers come down from New York. We did French dinners, Italian dinners, Shabbat dinners. The fucking wedding was, I mean, there was a mountain of white roses with a lady playing a giant harp on the top of it with a fucking fake white rose tree that they built. Like, it was insane. We were bartending in these large bird cages and shit that, like, Lisi had gotten. But anyway, it's, you know, the vast, overwhelming majority of that $8 million did not come to my business, as we were just doing the bartending and we were providing in the liquor and stuff. But again, it was just, you know, being a part of that environment. It's
the environment.
You know, getting that experience. You know, the people that I had met, not the customers, but the other vendors, I still do business with today. So, like, you know, the food caterer that was doing that event, like, we do events with them all the time, right? Because they were just doing kosher catering. So then it was like, okay, the cocktails we were doing all had to be kosher.
Right.
So we had to go to Danzig Catering's, you know, facility, prep everything there in front of the rabbi. And that kind of built a relationship now between the two of us. Because they do a lot of kosher events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs. They want to offer quality cocktails.
Of course.
You guys will come in and do it as an outsourced, and then we can work together as like a partnership. And so, you know, I've been able to form some of those, you know, over the years. Last year we were in Chicago with Danzig doing like a 600-person Jewish event up there. So, you know, it's great. And I still do events with Lisi today, you know. I'm sure she's going to be on the podcast one day as well. So it's just great. It's, you know, again, it always kind of reminds me of that, like, growth experience. You know, I think that was outside of Adidas for the Super Bowl, which was right before our world all fell apart with COVID. That was really the biggest moment for me, you know? So, but again, it doesn't happen in year 1 or year 2 or sometimes even in year 3. So if you're out there and you're a vendor and you're trying to get to that level, you know, just keep grinding, man. Keep doing you. Use social media to get people's attention, showcase what you do, be outside the box, you know? I know, like, I don't do a bunch of Marylen's fucking weddings, but I know that you're the type of planner that, like, you're not just trying to look at everybody else's ideas and then just dub them for your next client, right? It's like you want your own piece of you and your sense of creativity and expertise in each event. And I think that's what makes the people stand out. Like, I know Lisi, for example, sits down and fucking sketches things. I don't even know if she's a drawer. I don't know. She might just, like, shit scratch on a piece of paper. But the fact that you're taking something here and you're putting it down on something is, like, you know, there's that level of creativity is very fucking valuable to people. And that's what I'm saying. Be creative in this business, in the wedding industry, whatever it is you do. Photographer, videographer, bartender, fucking some sort of food caterer. You know, like, the food caterers that crush it the most are the ones that always do these fucking crazy displays, right? It's like, it's not even the taste of it. It's like the display of it.
Right, exactly.
You know? Like, how did it look when you served it to us?
And that's what people are going to remember, you know?
That's it. Memorable experiences. So anyway, that concludes our very first episode of Sip and Tell. Now that we've gotten through 2 hours, thank you so much for
having me. I loved it.
It's such a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll be back in this room speaking again.
I'm looking forward to
very soon. I still have a million questions I didn't even ask you just pertaining to weddings, but podcasts are supposed to be about just bullshitting about the things, you know, we see, hear, and deal with every single day. So it was a pleasure doing this for the last 2 hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Episode 1, Sip and Tell, our event podcast, talking about all things events, event vendors, the struggles, the trials and tribulations, and all the glory that comes with all of this fucking madness that we put ourselves through 9 months out of the year, every single year.
Every fucking year.
And we're right in the thick of it right now. And so with that being said, I got to wrap up this episode because I got to go do a tequila tasting today, and I got a bunch of events happening this week, so I got to go check with the team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I won't probably see you at an event until later this year. I don't think you're doing any weddings until Christmas time, right?
Exactly.
December.
Yeah, December.
Nice little sabbatical.
Nice little break.
Good for you. We all need it, you know? We all need it. That's why I leave all fucking summer, you know? Well, thank you. It was great, and look forward to the next one.
Same.
That's it. Your wedding expertise here. Sip and Tell. Happy Monday to all of you.